Have you noticed how time seems to speed up as you get older? When you were a child, a summer holiday felt endless. 6 weeks stretched out like a lifetime. Now you blink and it's Christmas again. The decorations come down, a few hopeful plans are made, and somehow the year vanishes in what feels like a long weekend. It can be quietly unsettling, this sense that life is accelerating without your permission. But the experience is less about time itself and more about how your brain measures it. When you're 5 years old, a single year is a vast proportion of your lived experience. It represents a huge slice of everything you've ever known. By the time you're 50, a year is just a thin sliver of a much larger story. Your mind doesn't track time in isolation. It tracks it relative to the total life already lived. As that total grows, each additional year occupies a smaller percentage of your overall experience, and so it feels shorter. Nothing about the clock has changed, but your internal ruler has. There's another powerful factor at work: novelty. Childhood is saturated with firsts. First day at school, first sleepover, first real disappointment, first triumph that makes you feel 10 feet tall. The world is unfamiliar and unpredictable. Your brain is constantly alert, absorbing new information and building mental maps. Novel experiences trigger heightened attention and stronger memory encoding. When you look back on those early years, they feel long because they are packed with distinct memories. Adult life, in contrast, often becomes more predictable. The same commute, similar conversations, familiar responsibilities. The brain, efficient as ever, recognizes patterns and stops recording every detail. It automates. That efficiency is a strength, but it has a side effect. Days begin to blur. When you later scan your memory for that month or that year, there are fewer vivid markers to retrieve. And because we judge the length of time in hindsight by the number of memories we can recall, the period feels compressed. Attention plays a central role in all of this. When you're young, the world demands your focus. Everything is new, slightly overwhelming, sometimes thrilling, sometimes frightening. That intensity stretches your sense of time in the moment. As you grow older, you develop cognitive shortcuts. You've seen similar situations before. You don't need to analyze every social cue or learn every rule from scratch. Life becomes more navigable. The mind runs on established scripts. Ironically, the more competent you become, the faster life can appear to pass. Memory itself also changes the texture of time. The brain's memory systems respond strongly to change and difference. When experiences are varied, they are stored as distinct chapters. When days are repetitive, the brain compresses them, almost like saving storage space. 10 similar days might be filed away as one general impression rather than 10 separate entries. Later, when you look back, the lack of detail makes the period feel short. By contrast, times of transition, moving house, starting a new role, traveling somewhere unfamiliar, falling in love, often feel expansive in retrospect because they are densely encoded with memory. Emotion stretches time too. Moments of fear, awe, excitement, or deep joy heighten awareness. In those states, your perception widens and the present feels fuller. Children experience emotion with raw intensity. Everything matters. Everything feels big. As adults, emotional regulation improves. You're steadier, less reactive, more resilient. That's a strength. But when emotional peaks and valleys flatten, time can lose some of its dramatic contour. A calm, stable life is deeply valuable. Yet if nothing disrupts the baseline, months can slip by almost unnoticed. Modern busyness adds another layer. Many adults live in a state of constant low-grade urgency, juggling work demands, relationships, responsibilities, and digital distractions. Attention becomes fragmented. In the moment, you feel rushed. There's never enough time. Yet when you look back, the weeks seem to have flown. The paradox is that scattered attention leads to weaker memory consolidation. If you were never fully present, your brain never laid down rich markers. And without markers, time collapses. The reassuring truth is that while you cannot slow objective time, you can influence how it feels. Introducing novelty, even in small ways, disrupts compression. Taking a different route home, learning a skill that stretches you, visiting a new place, reading something outside your usual interests. These small changes create distinct memory traces. Breaking routine intentionally prevents days from merging into an indistinguishable stream. Deep attention is equally powerful, not in a grand, mystical sense, but in the simple act of noticing, tasting your food instead of scrolling, listening fully in conversation, paying attention to the light, the air, the small textures of daily life. Attention enriches encoding. It thickens experience. When you later recall that period, it will feel fuller because it was lived more fully. Reflection also expands time. Writing about your days, even briefly, forces the brain to consolidate events into narrative. Narrative creates anchors. When you reread entries from months ago, you're often struck by how distant those moments feel. The act of recording experience slows its disappearance. It helps to reframe the speeding up of time not as a warning sign, but as a byproduct of growth. The sensation that years pass quickly is partly evidence that you are navigating life with greater skill and efficiency. You are no longer overwhelmed by every new stimulus. You've built internal models that allow you to move through the world with competence. That's not loss, that's development. The aim is not to return to childhood with its chaos and constant uncertainty. It is to combine adult stability with deliberate novelty and conscious attention, to punctuate routine with exploration, to stay curious, to remain emotionally engaged, to mark the seasons of your life rather than letting them dissolve unnoticed. Time may continue at the same steady pace it always has. The calendar will not slow for anyone, but your experience of it can deepen. And when experience deepens, life feels less like a blur and more like a story with texture and weight. In the end, most of us are not really seeking more years. We are seeking richer ones.